let me tell you the story of Caspar Malthus. Caspar was a dear friend from my mortal youth. I hoped that he would choose to take the Malthus family in a new direction. Unfortunately, working conditions worsened. I need a mortal to help my old friend find redemption.
It's been in development for almost exactly 2 years. We announced it on June 11th this year, so we kept it kind of close to the vest. And we did it at the PC Gaming Show. Yeah, so it's a 2D Metroidvania. All of it is hand-drawn art. So you play as Ebenezer Scrooge. It's actually based on, it's a continuation of the Christmas Carol. So the notion is, if you remember the story, there's a character called Jacob Marley. He comes to Ebenezer Scrooge and says, hey, if you don't change your ways, you're gonna end up like me. The game, we imagine the game where Victorian London is filled with ghosts just like Jacob Marley. Ghosts had also been burdened by to the mortal world, and so they're all over London. And this is actually part of the original story by Charles Dickens, that these ghosts want to help people, but they can't. That's a curse in the afterlife. So because Jacob Marley could talk with Ebenezer Scrooge, the idea is that he could talk with ghosts, right? So these ghosts all ask Ebenezer, now that he can speak with ghosts, they ask, can you help somebody in the world on our behalf? And when you do that, they join you as like an ability. So think of like a Final Fantasy. So you could see here this poster. So this is one of the ghosts. This is another, yeah. So what you do is you meet these ghosts throughout the game. They'll say, hey, this person over here, and they'll have some sort of mission. You complete the mission, and then now you can join them. You could cycle through the menu, the inventory, choose that ghost, and when you press the button, you activate. And you'll see here, you can actually press the Y button, and you'll see you're going to use them right there. So that's an example of it, right? And if you press left and right, you could. So we got 2 available, and you have a mana meter here. The mana meter it fills up whenever you attack successfully. So you don't have to defeat an enemy; it's just an attack. You get a little bit. So it's a way to encourage players to constantly be interacting with the enemies. So not only that, all of these ghosts all have backstories. Because the idea, so so another concept, and you can see it in the trailer here, is that we have this notion of unrepentant ghosts. These are ghosts that, unlike these ghosts here, which are at some level kind of regretted their behaviors in normal life, there's other ghosts that have no remorse whatsoever, right? And the universe that we built is the idea is that these ghosts separated themselves from humanity. So they live in the forest, they live in the haunted, they're in abandoned houses, they're in the tunnels, they're all these different places where they're literally separated from mankind. And because they're separated from mankind, they lose their humanity, right? They become more creature-like, more monster-like, and so forth. So all of these ghosts were once people, but the idea is that they've changed effectively. And every one of them has a backstory. So like this, I don't remember the details of this particular character, but I believe he's a opera singer.
So I like how you guys list what possible drops that they have
Yeah.
going on there.
Yeah. So there is, we don't want to say that there's kind of crafting because I feel like that's overstating it, but there is kind of light crafting in the sense that in the world, there's a bunch of rare, kind of like, not collectible, but rare items. So things like mugwort, glass, sand, things like that. And in order to either acquire or purchase certain things, you need a combination, right? So you might need, 2 mugwort, for example, plus XYZ.
Something else to purchase.
So to get something, and you can choose. So you might decide to use it on item A or item B. So as far as like kind of economy type stuff, store type stuff, there's a few things to talk about. First of all, we have something called Jasper's Wandering Bazaar. So it's like a cart, right? And we don't have it here, but it's a cart where he sells a bunch of stuff. So basically 2 major categories. One is consumables. So you buy like health items and mana items. And the other are kind of rare items, which I can go into in a little bit about what those things are, right? And then we also have other characters that are more mysterious, and we haven't gotten into detail what they are, but they are more mysterious, and they show up in different parts where they'll give you a certain ability, like an additional mana or spirit. Actually, I'm using an outdated term.
Yeah.
The term is spirit. What else? Go ahead.
What's your favorite thing about the game?
Oh man, I mean that's like asking what's the favorite part about cookie.
If you could pick one thing out of here that you like, that is. I think we nailed it. I think we love it. This is great.
I mean, I think so. I'm going to answer the question in two ways. I'm going to cheat a little bit.
Okay.
One is in terms of gameplay, we really took painstaking effort to make this an excellent Metroidvania, right? I mean, we really looked at all the details of Metroidvania in terms of like inventory stuff, gameplay mechanics, like basic movement, right? We hope that it feels great. Like we really want it to feel great. It's got kind of like, I would say from a gameplay perspective, it probably most resembles like a Hollow Knight probably. You're probably getting a little bit of those kind of vibes, right? But we think the gameplay, it was like a lot of detail to the gameplay. We didn't want to do gimmicks. We didn't want to do this sort of thing. We wanted a game that's going to last forever. We really wanted a game that you're going to play this in 10 years. Yeah, we got a lot of secret areas. We have characters that can kind of break walls or break floors, so you can find the secret items and so forth. We have so here's another interesting thing. If you remember the original story, when you meet the Ghost of Christmas Present, at the very end, there's two children. I don't know if you remember, Want and Ignorance, right?
Yes.
Want and Ignorance, right? And in the book, the significance is Want represents the poor, right? The people poor and want of things that are, the basic needs. And ignorance is the like kind of wealthy class that are willfully ignorant of the needs of the poor. So he sees it as two not vices, but two like problems that humanity is dealing with.
Sure.
So we kind of play with that concept. So we have like, in Metroidvanias, you have these concepts of like a familiar, those kind of concepts. So we have spirit kids. We have 3 of them in the game, right? It's basically one is an attack, one is a defend, and one helps find secrets and so forth. So that's why I bring that up. So you're going to see these kind of like floating kind of kids that kind of help out with it.
Gotcha.
Right. So that's another
interesting way to do it.
Yeah. Well, we really, every detail, we really tried to capture elements of the Christmas Carol book, right? Like there's a lot in there. Like all these elements that I mentioned, they're mentioned in the book, right? All the like consumables. If you remember the scene with the Ghost of Christmas Present, like he's in a giant buffet,
right.
Like there's just food everywhere. It's all food like all our food from that.
Okay.
It's a lot of like cool stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, we really took a lot of effort to capture Victorian London, Dickensian London, all that sort of stuff. So that's the other place I would put it that we're really proud of, is we really spent a lot of effort into creating a universe, a world that we can build on, that world that's really great. So a lot of it has to do with Dickensian and the book, with every single object in the game. I mean, we did our best at least.
Right.
Has a reference from actual Victorian London. So everything should be time appropriate relatively. One thing that's important to note, because I think this is a trend here that we actually avoided, is it's really not steampunk. There might be some steampunk elements that are kind of, I feel like that steampunk was not necessarily like it was. We've seen a lot, right? So we wanted to do it in a way that maybe is a visual style that's different. The premise of the original book, right, was that it kind of implied that Ebenezer Scrooge is the only person that's ever been visited by ghosts.
Right.
In our game, the idea is that if you're visited by, like a lot of people are visited by ghosts, right? So one character, his name is Castor Malthus. This is a character featured in our new trailer. The idea is that he's like this very wealthy industrialist. He owns a bunch of factories in London. He was visited by the ghosts because what he wanted to do, it's kind of like a family mission. They're kind of like a bad family. They resent that they rely on the working class, the poor, to run their factories.
Right.
So when he comes and visits to, the ghosts come and say, hey, you got to change your ways, but it doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. He uses it. It's kind of like Back to the Future 2, like Biff, right?
Right.
He actually uses his experience with the Ghost of Christmas Future, and he sees technology is going to invent like 80 years in the future that's going to automate his factory. So he takes that from his vision, brings it to the present, automates his factory, right? And it lays off all the people. So now they don't need people. Now in London, you don't see this here, but the idea is there's protests, there's strikes, there's riots going on. So a ghost, which is, his name is Eric Fellows, which is this guy, the first guy. He's a childhood friend of this guy. He comes to Ebenezer and says, "Hey, this is this is not the Casper I remember. He was not so bad, right? We need to figure out a way to like kind of redeem. We want to find his true self. So that's how the quest kind of starts, right? Another thing to remember too is so we have this thing called heirlooms, right?
Yeah.
So heirlooms are you can equip You're going to get them various different ways. You acquire them through secrets. You acquire them through missions. Some are just in the environment. Some are purchased various different ways. And each of these have backstories. So the idea is each one of these items was once owned by someone visited by Christmas ghosts maybe 100 years ago, you know, and they could be in different countries. It could be somebody in like medieval Russia or like feudal Japan or something like that. And so we have these kind of interesting stories for all of them about their backstory, and then they all have different abilities. So this adds a huge amount of depth to the game because it changes how you approach bosses, how you approach different like challenging areas, environment.
Right, and because it's Castlevania based, that might also then allow you to go areas you couldn't then go before, right?
Well, so not necessarily.
No?
Those are all optional. The areas that do allow you to go are the ghosts.
That's
right?
what. Okay, so
Yeah.
the ghost
Yeah.
allows you to get past a certain obstacle you otherwise
Yeah.
cannot get
We
past.
have two general categories of ghosts. One is a like movement focus.
Mhm.
Another one is attack focus. The movement ghosts are all like basically because there's various areas that are ability locked, right? So so in order to access them, you need either like a double jump or a teleport and so forth. And again, all of this is effectuated through a ghost. So instead of like a double jump in our game, what happens is you press the jump button, you're in the air, you press it again at the apex of the jump, and a ghost comes out, grabs you, and throws you up into the air. We knew that one of our unique thematic elements is ghosts. So we didn't want to be a game where like we have ghosts and, I don't know, like a technology thing or something. We wanted to really hone in on ghosts at every element. So all these abilities are all carried out by ghosts. I should mention you've noticed that there's an area that says spirit weapons. Those are basically two types of things. One is you have a cane, right? So you get different like kind of cool toppers. Like there's different like there's like a snake one. There's various one. They all have different abilities. So some it's something to the effect of either more damage or you collect mana when you hit or more mana. They're all a little bit different, right? Then there's actual ghostly weapons. So you get a ghost axe, you get a ghost sword, things like that. So
Yeah, so November 3rd release, right, for the
November
holidays.
3rd,
So
yeah.
hopefully
That's
that'll
the
be
idea.
good. Yeah, that's a good target.
yeah, we're hoping to get we're hoping to what we want this game again is a game to last. We think this is a game that's going to work year round because you notice this isn't heavily Christmas themed,
No.
right? So in the other levels there are levels that are heavily Christmas themed. So even though we are to a certain extent marketing it as a Christmas game, we think it's actually going to be year round kind of opportunity. Right? So, and it's I think we're doing a lot of things too. Like we've got some really I think relevant themes right now because one of the themes of the game, one of the themes of the book, fundamentally is the employer-employee relationship, right? Fundamentally, Bob Cratchit, how he treats Bob Cratchit, and this is like kind of the middle of the industrial era. Before that, it was like apprenticeships and like master apprentice, that sort of stuff. That was the era where you really had like larger employers and that kind of stuff, and it's really about the ethics of how you should treat people as an employer or how you should treat an employee, right? And it was relatively a novel kind of issue within like kind of the culture at that point, right? And I think so we're kind of doing it again, and I think it's really relevant. What's going on in the strikes right now in Hollywood and stuff, like strikes and layoffs and kind of being teched out of your job has always been kind of a blue collar thing, and you don't really see it with like programmers and more like that sort of stuff. Now with AI, you're actually starting to see it, right? And so we're seeing this kind of like these issues that happened at the turn of the century kind of happen again for a different group, and it's kind of what happened here is they've automated the factory. So it's like
Right.
the technology is taking it.
So who came up with all the artwork? Because it's very I went to Disney, but almost Don Bluth-esque.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I mean, we did.
artwork.
The very, very first reference we had was DuckTales, and this character was a little bit like in the DuckTales kind of way. But yeah, no, we had a dedicated couple of artists that did all the character arts and stuff like that. Our goal with it was to be family friendly. We were targeting an E10 from the beginning, so there's no blood in it. There's no anything like it's there is some like kind of light horror, but I mean, I literally ran through with parents and said, "What do you think of this for your 7-year-old?" Stuff like that. Yeah. Right on,
so what do you hope the players will take away from it? That obviously when attracting you say you hope it will last longer than just a Christmas title, but there's so many games out. So what would you hope that people will notice about this that sets it apart and that they take away from this to go check it out?
First thing I want to say is I think that the Metroidvania genre is a very special genre. Like I think the type of consumer that plays these games and the type of games that are being made, they're very artisanal. Like what I compare it to is like I grew up in the CD era, right? Where like if you bought Dr. Dre, you probably also bought Snoop Dogg. You probably also bought if you bought Nirvana, you probably also bought Pearl Jam or something like that. So there's like a community, there's a culture around it, and we want to contribute to that culture in a way that's like the community's gonna love it, you know.
Sure.
And we think there's room for a lot of different people, right? You know, we have this kind of like more festive theme, but remember, Christmas Carol is a ghost story. It's a Christmas ghost story.